Wow. Is it on?
Yeah, it's
Okay. Hey guys, Ben Seung from Australian Strength Performance. Now before we start today's video, let me just thank you because we have hit the big 1,000 mark. We've got 1,000 subscribers and we are growing, and thank you so much for your support, your comments, your shares. This means a lot to us. And as promised, today we're going to be doing a live Q&A. We're filming this and we'll be putting together some questions that we've received over the last few weeks from our viewers and our fans. And I'll be answering them, so make sure you stay tuned to this one. So for those of you that don't know a bit of my history, this is very close to my heart, and so I'm going to share it with you guys. I used to be a really fat and obese kid growing up, and I didn't lose that weight all of a sudden. I grew up as a fat teen, and throughout this period of time, obviously, for those of you who have shared a very, very similar story to myself would understand that you go through body shaming, people ridicule you. There is a lot of people that would shun you because of the way you look. And I kind of grew up with that. I kind of grew up with that burden. And there came a point in my life when I was 16 specifically, where I got ridiculed by my best mate, my best friend, who basically called me fat. And that kind of hit a very sore note for me, because you would think that your best friend would support you, but that wasn't the case for me. Whether it was a joke, whether it was serious, I took it very seriously. And that became the statement that turned my life around, because from then I made a decision to change how I looked, because if I felt that my best friend couldn't even support me as me, something needs to be done. I took a stance on that and I decided to do what I knew best at that point in time, and that was to lose weight. Now, I didn't know anything about fitness, I didn't have a mentor, and I did what I knew. And what I knew was that if I ate less and I did more activity, somehow I would be losing that fat. So that was exactly what I did. I made sure that I exercised at least 2 hours a day, and the main form of exercise that I did was running. Now, I was really ashamed to run outside because I was aware of my body and the fat that moved around, and I didn't want people to see me. I didn't want to expose myself in that way. And so I remember spending time in my room, and in my room I had a mirror, a large mirror, and I would stand in front of the mirror each day. And I'm getting goosebumps now just kind of thinking about the past. I would stand in front of the mirror each day for 2 hours, and I would be running on the spot. So I'll put a towel down and I would run on the spot in front of the mirror. I'll look at myself and I'll go, you got this and you can change. So that was the only activity that I did. I did steps running on the spot. I did that for 2 hours in the confines of my room, behind a curtain so no one could see me, but I could kind of see outside. And I remember eating and counting my calories, not specifically, but really just focusing on small meals. I remember eating, specifically just breakfast itself, and breakfast was really skim milk with some cereal. And throughout the rest of the day, I would make an excuse not to eat. So my caloric count was extremely low. And my activity level was a lot higher than I was used to, and so I lost a tremendous amount of weight really fast. Now, I lost 22 kilos within a period of 3 months. And for a boy growing up at 16, that completely changed my physique and also completely changed the way I thought. So for me, that was a kickstart, not specifically just to the outside, but a kickstart to my brain, to my mental, my thinking, to make me realize that if I put my mind to something, I could make it happen. Now, after that period of 3 months, I went through a period of 2 years of, some of you would probably look at it as an eating disorder. So having a really poor relationship with food, where, at times and days I would starve myself, and at other days I would go and lash out and eat on a whole bunch of sweets and buffets, and then come back and try to dig that food out. But thank God I wasn't able to vomit or purge. So I would say my mindset was close on the bordering of a bulimia, if anything, but I didn't get to that stage medically. I didn't get there. So it was a time in my life where I was wanting to recreate myself. I was tired of the names. I was tired of everyone around me. I was tired of living in that shadow. And I wanted to step out as a new individual to recreate myself. And that was kind of the starting point of my interest in body composition. And I think one thing led to another. I went on to do a course in fitness. I began to love and understand what fitness could do to me and for me. And that was how I got into the fitness industry. Now, by no means was that the first point where I continued to work in fitness. I started to go to university. I moved through a whole range of different jobs. I'm actually a psychologist, but one thing led to another, and I decided to step out of what I was doing and pursue fitness. And that for me really was the start of it. So that was my starting point. And my starting point has led me to realize that the more I learn about fitness right now, the dumber I feel. Learning is a never-ending process, and especially with the fitness world, what you think is in black and white becomes gray very, very fast. And so I believe what I'm sharing with you guys, and it doesn't stem from just what is up here or what I've learned. What I share with you guys stems from here. It stems from my heart, it stems from experience, it stems from the pain that I've gone through, but also understanding how someone like myself, because I've gone through this journey, I stand here with the experience now, with the tools to be able to equip you guys that are listening out there on how to help yourself in body composition, how to think smart in training, that it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be that journey that I've gone through. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm thankful for this journey, but also at the same time, there are much better ways of getting your body healthier and better and in shape. And that is what I guess these YouTube videos are about, to be able to educate you in a smart way and to empower you in thinking that way. Now, certain individuals, as you know, are what we call a ruler shape. A ruler shape individual are individuals that if you stand, they don't have a shape. They've got narrow shoulders, really thick waist or bigger hips, and their legs are quite small, so they kind of just look straight. This could be a male, which is not too bad, or for a female, they definitely want to actively change their shape. Most females want to have curves. So how would you change that? Can you actively, dynamically change your body shape? Yes, you can. And that's what bodybuilding really is all about. Bodybuilding is all about sculpting the body and knowing how to. Remember as well that when you're talking about a V-taper, a lot of the times it could be an illusion that is created by wider shoulders and a narrower waist. If your waistline is going to be thick, that means if you touch your hip bones and you palpate yourself on the sides and you can't actually go any more inwards, that means your hips are just there, then that's the size of your waist. Now, obviously, if you're grabbing your love handles and you can grab quite a bit, you've got fat to lose. So you don't necessarily have a thick waist. You've just got a belly or love handles that you need to lose. Now, that's a whole different ballgame, right? It's fat loss. That's what we're looking for. But if you're someone that actually has that straight shape, that means you palpate yourself and your bones are fixed, then what can you do? Well, the most straightforward way is to look at broadening your shoulders. So if you learn how to broaden your shoulders, that starts to give you that V-taper or that look. Broader shoulders, you also need to look at how you can activate and fire and build those lats, because those lats will give you that V-taper. Now, on top of that, what adds to the illusion is bigger quads. Because as you come down with a V-taper, if your quads come out, then all of a sudden you have that shape that you want. Because otherwise, if your legs are still skinny, then that taper is going to make you look a little bit awkward, because you're straight, you got a slight taper, and you're still straight. So in order for you to get that shape that you want, you have to make sure that, yes, you're building the upper body, but you cannot neglect the lower body as well, because the aesthetics of your quads actually helps to even out that V-taper. It gives you an illusion that your waist is a lot smaller and you've got some size on the top of your body. Now, we got to understand what the term insulin sensitivity is all about. It's a big term. When you're insulin sensitive, there are many characteristics that could potentially go hand in hand with insulin sensitivity. Now, if you're obviously testing your blood sugar level or blood glucose level in the morning, you will know whether your body is insulin sensitive. So you test it when you're fasting, you test it post-meal. And obviously, if you are insulin sensitive, the results will show. However, if you're not using a test, how do you know that you're insulin sensitive? Now, from a visual perspective, insulin sensitivity also has a very high correlation with individuals that are lean. The leaner you are, the more insulin sensitive you are. Now, this may not be the case all the time, but for majority of the cases, a lean physique equates to a higher level of insulin sensitivity. Now, when we're saying lean, we're not talking here about someone who's skinny fat. That looks good in clothes, but the moment the clothes come off, you can actually pinch quite a lot of fat. So that's not lean. Lean, I'm talking about the fact that if they contract their muscles and I'm pinching their fat, they are very, very lean. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. Now, if you're looking at someone, again, who is extremely insulin sensitive or very, very lean, these people can tolerate a lot more carbohydrates. And I think the determining factor for the question on how much carbohydrates can I take in order to grow muscle, to have a great workout, and yet to be able to keep my body fat low, to lose body fat, there is no fixed amount based on the numbers that you see of insulin sensitivity. Let's say if you're measuring insulin sensitivity, there is no fixed amount. The amount is based on how your body reacts to it. So I would suggest that if you know that you are insulin sensitive, you start with taking in a certain amount of carbs as a baseline. That amount of carbs may be what you take in every single day. It could be, for example, 100 grams of carbs around the workout, peri-workout. Now, if you're taking 100 grams of carbs, typically I'll like you to measure your weight on day 1 and day 5. Keeping all the other variables in the day exactly the same, the only thing you're doing is adding in or putting in those 100 grams of carbs, right? As a baseline. Now, that baseline could be a random number that you've picked out for yourself. It could be 80 grams, 70 grams. Choose a random number. And then you can only scale up or down from that number. Okay, this is a very simple way to do it. So after 5 days, if you weigh yourself and you look at yourself, physically, you look leaner, visually you look leaner, workout-wise, you have the energy to push through your workouts, then that amount, 100 grams of carbs, is going to be doing you good. If your weight, for example, is exactly the same, then what can you do? Increase the amount of carbs. Typically, you might want to increase it by 15 to 20 grams, and then just see how your body responds for the next week. See how your body responds for the following week. If your weight is not climbing up, for example, and it's still the same, keep increasing the carbs. You will know when you start to spill over. So for example, if your weight goes up and you are keeping as lean as you can, so you're still very, very lean, you know that's great. You keep taking up the carbs until you start to see your body put on more fat. Now, of course, visually, it will tell you something, but if you want something specific, go find a practitioner or a machine that can actually take your body fat, your skin folds, and give you an objective number when it comes to body fat. That way, you know how to measure it. But what I'm giving you is a method and a thought process. Start at a baseline of carbs, keep all the variables the same. The baseline would be peri-workout around the workout, and just see how well your body can handle the increase of carbs. Now, if you start at 100 grams, for example, and at the end of the week, you are heavier, but you're also fatter, then you know you've started off at an amount that is too high for you. Perhaps you're not as insulin sensitive as you thought. So what do? You drop it by 50 to 20 grams. Start at 80 grams the next week. See how you go with that. If you're still putting on that fat, your body fat's not dropping, your workouts are the same, then drop 80 grams to 60 grams to see what works for you. So every individual has a different level of insulin sensitivity, not just an absolute value, but also to the type of carbs that you're taking. Some people are better, can tolerate potatoes better than rice, and other people it may be different. So choose the right kind of carbs that will suit you, and also choose the right amount that might suit you. Let me answer this question. It's an interesting question because I don't know whether this person is actually asking according to the scientific terms being used. Typically, when you talk about strength or a strength block, a block of strength, we look at strength training. Now, strength training really is anything 6 reps and below. 6 reps and above, you kind of look at it as functional hypertrophy. It is heavy, but it is not exactly strength training. So if you're looking at 6 reps and below, if you're doing 6 reps and below, these programs are dedicated to building strength and the generation of your increase of your nervous system activation, as well as the recruitment of muscle fibers to lift heavy. strength training differs from hypertrophy training immensely. In a strength training block, your goal is to get a load from point A to point B as fast as you can, typically, to recruit all your type 2B fibers. That's the goal of it. And also to make the load as light as you possibly can make it feel. So you want to make a 200 kilo squat feel as light as a feather so you can perform the number of reps. That's what strength really is about. In hypertrophy training, the stimulus is a lot lighter. So you're lifting a load that's a lot lighter. You're looking at 8 reps and above typically. And when that happens, the goal is not about lifting the load. It is not about bringing the load from point A to point B. The goal is about the journey between point A and point B. And I've spoken about this before. Hypertrophy training really is about making a light load feel difficult and heavy. A strength training block is about making a heavy load feel light and easy. So 2 completely different variables down here. In a strength block, understand that the amount of tension that you put under the muscles is going to be very, very short. You cannot lift something very heavy for an extended period of time. Because that tension is so short, you are not going to create a stimulus to shred. In order to shred, you need a longer time under tension, because shredding would need to feed into the body's aerobic capacity. That means your body needs to use carbohydrates as fuel to burn. You can only do that if your time under tension is extended. So we're looking at 60 seconds and above. There is no way you're going to be lifting a really heavy load, 6 RM and below, for 60 seconds. It's impossible. So to be able to shred on a strength block, the only way you can do that is if you add stuff to the strength block. So for example, you start choosing a couple of exercises in your workout that is strength-based, which is 6 reps and below, just to build strength. And then you need to build and make up the volume of the rest of the program by adding in hypertrophy movements as well as accessory movements. That increases the total volume, tonnage, time under tension that you put your muscles under, and that gives you the stimulus to shred. Alternatively, if you just do a strength block, then you will need to add in sessions, interval sessions or sprint sessions, to be able to get that time under tension for your body, or that amount of activity for you to shred. All right, now don't think about calories. Don't think that if I reduce my calories in a strength block, that can help me shred, because you are shooting yourself in the foot. If you want to be lifting heavy, reducing your calories is not going to do you any good. So you're not building strength either. So you've got to take your mind out of there. So the variables that you're talking about, you can only shred on a strength block if you add in something else to the training rather than just focus on a strength training protocol. A 5x5 program, for example, will not get you shredded. It will get you stronger, but it will not get you shredded. A hypertrophy-based program will and can get you shredded, depending on how you're performing it. Well, first and foremost, thank you for asking this question, because I don't think I am shredded at all, really. I try my best to stay on top of it throughout the whole year. But I think at the end of the day, this question comes down to, I guess, 2 main aspects on which I base my answers upon. One of them is priority, and the other aspect is integrity. And this is how I look at it. Priority is how I put my values throughout the day. Now, for me, if you've heard my story, especially in this Q&A, you realize that going back to being obese, going back to a lifestyle that was at that particular point of time, it is not an option for me. There is no plan 2. So there is no way that I would step back in that boat by taking 1 step backwards. It is always something where, to me, a priority is I have got to prioritize myself. I have got to prioritize my fitness, so to ensure that I would never be back there ever again. So as opposed to fearing getting back there, I'm more motivated to step away from that situation where I consciously walked out on. So fitness to me is a priority. Now, I'm very, very, very blessed in the sense that I can pursue my passion, and in pursuing my passion, I can keep myself healthy, right? So that's priority. Now, the next big point to me is integrity. And integrity is that whatever I preach has to be something that I believe and something that I do, so that there is no incongruency in how I live my life. There is incongruency if I tell you one thing, but in the background, I'm not training and I'm not eating the way that I tell people to do. The fact of the matter is, if you ask any of the guys that I know, my staff close to me, you will realize that I eat, I live, I breathe what I teach. It is who I am, it is part of who I am. So I'm not extending my character out of what I'm not in that sense. Integrity is something that I hold very dear to myself. So when I teach about something, it's something I truly believe, it is something I live. And that's why I'm blessed to be able to share this point of passion. And I believe these are the values that I personally hold close to my heart, and the values that I want to give to my kids as well. So in living this way, it is a testament to my kids when they look at me that I'm someone that lives by what I say, I live by how I lead, I live by who I am. It is not a false front that I put up. So in that sense, look, I'm not swimming upstream. I'm not doing something that is difficult. First and foremost, I don't have an option because I choose not to look back on my past and go back there. So it's not an option for me. I'm choosing to be motivated, to continue to be motivated, to look in the direction where I want to look, I want to be. And I'm intrinsically pushing myself towards that area. And secondly, it is part of who I am. So that's life. That's life for me. This is exactly how I do it. I don't question it. There is no plan B. It's just looking ahead and moving forward. Guys, thank you so much once again for watching. Thank you for your support. And thank you for your questions, because it gave me an opportunity to share with you a little bit more about myself, my journey, and Australian Strength Performance. Now, if you like and appreciate what you've learned from the YouTube videos, make sure you head on to our online learning platform, learn-asp.com, and this is where you would see the range of courses that I've written, as well as the online seminars on the topics that you guys are particularly interested about: body composition, fat loss, nutrition, and the works. Continue to send through your questions, and I look forward to filming the next bunch of questions, Q&A with you guys, and stay tuned for our next YouTube video that will be up real soon.